What if I told you that the most famous story of masculine rage, the Iliad, actually begins with that very word? The ancient Greek word menon, meaning wrath, is literally the first word of this epic tale, and it's been shaping how we think about masculinity for thousands of years.
That's fascinating. How this ancient text is still so relevant to our modern understanding of male identity and violence. The way it presents Achilles as this archetype of masculine fury.
And here's what's really interesting. The Iliad gives us these two competing models of masculinity. You've got Achilles, driven purely by ego and vengeance, and then Hector, whose courage comes from love and duty to his family and city.
Hmm. So it's almost like these two figures represent choices we're still making today about what kind of men we want to be.
Exactly. And this is where the work of René Girard becomes so relevant. He has this fascinating theory about how violence isn't just something people do. It's actually the foundation of human culture. He argues that we imitate each other's desires, which leads to these cycles of competition and violence.
Well, that certainly explains a lot about human behavior, like how we often want things simply because others want them.
And Girard takes this even further with his concept of the scapegoat mechanism. He explains how societies manage their internal violence by selecting victims, someone to blame and sacrifice. It's this dark pattern that keeps repeating throughout history.
You know what this reminds me of? The story of Jesus and Barabbas. It's like a perfect illustration of these competing models of masculinity.
That's exactly right. Barabbas was essentially an Achilles figure, a violent revolutionary who represented everything people expected a real man to be. And then you have Jesus, modeling something completely different.
And the crowd chooses Barabbas. It's like they're saying, give us the kind of masculine hero we understand.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting. Girard argues that the crucifixion isn't about God demanding a blood sacrifice. It's about exposing our whole system of violence and scapegoating. When Jesus says, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do," he's revealing something profound about human nature.
That connects so well with what bell hooks writes about masculinity. How the first act of violence that patriarchy demands of males is violence toward themselves.
And you know what's particularly striking? Jesus completely subverts our masculine stereotypes. He weeps openly in public. He admits to being afraid in Gethsemane. He shows vulnerability in ways that would have been shocking then and, honestly, still are today.
So, what you're suggesting is that true strength might look very different from what we've been taught?
Exactly. And modern psychology is backing this up. The traditional suppression of male emotion, this demand for stoicism, is literally killing men through violence, suicide, and stress-related diseases. Studies show that men who embrace emotional expression and vulnerability actually have better health outcomes and stronger relationships.
Yet we're still choosing Barabbas figures today. Just look at who we elevate in our culture.
Right, but here's the hopeful part. We have this alternative model that's been there all along. It's not about becoming less of a man. It's about becoming more fully human. Richard Rohr talks about this as the journey from wild man to wise man.
That brings us back to where we started with the Iliad. This choice between rage and love, between glory and connection.
And maybe that's the most important takeaway. We have a choice. We don't have to keep perpetuating these cycles of violence and vengeance. The real revolution might not look like what we expect. It might look more like men learning to weep, to connect, to choose love over violence.
Now that's the kind of transformation our world desperately needs.
You know what? It really is. Because when we look at the current crisis of masculinity, the isolation, the violence, the epidemic of loneliness among men, we can see how desperately we need these alternative models. We need to understand that strength can look different than what we've been taught.